Welcome you all to this meeting where we will talk about the process of the planning so that you all can know what to expect. And we'll introduce the planning team, and then we'll interact on whatever questions you may have. Especially grateful for the presence of the residents of Heritage Park who are here tonight. Also, one or two other residents, council presidents around, but I want to recognize Lady Bob. Oh, right here, Marcy's. Residents Council President at Heritage Park, and it's been good to get to know her in a whole meeting. But she is here showing and demonstrating leadership of Heritage Park. I want to recognize some of my board members here. And also we have some elected officials. Thanks for your presence here. We have the sheriff of Wake County, as well as Wake County, the Wake County manager. Thanks for being here. So we had a kickoff meeting at Heritage Park with the residents a couple of weeks ago. We covered some of the tonight. In addition to that, we got a lot of good feedback, spirited feedback from the residents about our maintenance services, and I am pleased to say that there's been some good interaction between Jason School back there, the maintenance staff, and addressing the needs that have been brought to our attention at that meeting. If you do have questions and concerns about maintenance tonight, Jason is back there with his staff and will be happy to take down any information that you want to provide to follow up during the meeting or directly after the meeting. So please make use of that opportunity. So one of the other urgent questions that the residents posed at that meeting was about the right to return to Heritage Park after it is redeveloped. And so I want to just categorically emphasize that every resident who is lease compliant, who wants to return to Heritage Park, have the right to return to Heritage Park on completion of one phases. Phase is done first at Heritage Park. In addition to that commitment to return to Heritage Park, the right to return, we also want to make sure that we understand residents and the community that when residents return to the site, they will still be paying rent on the same basis as they're paying now, which is 30% of their adjusted income on rent. So regardless of whether it is the project-based voucher system or tax credit system, that is the rent that they will pay. So nothing more than 30% adjusted income. Another important question that is raised in relation to the redevelopment is, what is the relocation plan? We do not have a relocation plan at this point. The relocation plan will in part depend on the master plan for the site. And how the development will move forward, whether it will be just one phase, multiple phases, that will dictate some of the relocation plan. But at this very early stage, I want to just make it clear that we will have 3 resident relocation specialists on site. Every resident will be assigned to a relocation specialist and will become familiar with the needs, the preferences of each resident and design a relocation plan for each household. So that is part of our plans. And those folks will be on site a good amount of time before relocation starts. In addition to the relocation specialists, I want to also emphasize that the housing authority will pay for moving-related costs, whether it's moving, in some cases packing, and related costs like utility allowance, utility mobile. Take a look at exactly what you have. We will pay for those costs. In addition, we will also assist with security deposits, and we will work on a plan for how that will work. So with that, I want to just again welcome you all. I am here, and we are here to listen. Thanks for participating and helping shape your home, the residents' future home, the future home of others who do not have an affordable place to live, and also the affordable home for generations of residents of Raleigh to come. So thank you. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Good evening. My name is Peter Lillaby. I'm here with Crenshaw Development. We are co-developer with the RHA, and Raleigh, our local partner, is right here from the community. Redevelopment of Heritage Park. I don't really a great Heritage Park. You guys already know how wonderful and the site is to Raleigh. It's a great location, and it's going to be better. At the last meeting, at the residents meeting, we focused a great deal about what has happened in the past and in the present. And I hope that tonight we can turn our gaze toward the future. We're really interested in hearing your hopes and dreams, everything that you want this community to be. We're here to listen tonight, and it's really the beginning of the process, of this listening process, so that we can incorporate your ideas, your hopes into the design of the new development. So I'm not going to say much more other than I have a great team here with us. We've got Torty Gallus, one of the best master planning firms in the country, assisted by Mosley Architects, a great architect firm. And we've got BL Ball, who are doing an amazing job at making sure that everyone's voices are heard. They brought us food tonight, and they're doing a great job making sure that this development is done right at the beginning. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Murphy so he can tell you how this process is going to work. But I'm here to take notes and make sure that the development that we develop here reflects the needs, wants, interests, fears, hopes, and dreams of all of you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to try to come out to you. Can people hear me with the mic? That's feel a little bit like a church. Nobody wants the front row. Good evening. My name is Murphy Antoine, and I'm an architect and planner with Torty Gallus and Partners. And go back to the. What we want to do this evening in this introductory meeting is introduce the team, introduce the process that we're going to go about for master planning and planning for the future of Heritage Park, and introduce the community engagement, how we're going to have conversations and develop that plan and introduce the conversation. So I'm going to apologize in advance if you were with us 2 weeks ago meeting. because this is essentially the same kind of outline that we did at Heritage Park. That is on Park that Peter actually said. We met with the Heritage Park residents 2 weeks ago tomorrow. We met today, and again, to introduce the team, to introduce the process, to start to have a conversation. So this will be a different conversation because it's a different time, it's a different group of people, but it's the same idea. So who are the people? Go to the next team, the development partnership, and that's what this is all about. I want to come back to that word, partnership. The development partnership is between the Raleigh Housing Authority, between Brinshore, that Peter just introduced himself, and Raleigh Rays. And Raleigh Rays could raise their hands to the back, and Terrell and TJ as their team as the local developer. We have planners and architects like myself from 40 Gallison Partners. Again, Murphy and Schwab. I have my partners, Troy McGee here, and one of our associates, Molly Bob. Teamed with Mosley Architecture, Tom Legal here. So that is the master planning, what's called design professionals on this page. And our community engagement team, again, right here locally, Bridget Lennon, Peter Simpson.
My stuff is come from the start because we give back transportation for the residents that she can move towards that.
Right, and for some others, so that is the development and design team working together. I think I forgot to introduce Sarah Jones Anderson, who's also part of the British group. That's the introduction of the team. The introduction of the process part, we can go to the next piece, is what happens in a timeline moving forward. What I know is on your mind, what I would imagine is when do things start happening on Heritage Park to move it forward. We talk about some of the maintenance activities that have been going on over the last two. Development and planning team was selected by the Housing Authority in February. We've been doing a lot of groundwork between that February timeframe and where we stand here in June to learn who the stakeholders are, to welcome Ashley to RHA to schedule out a process. So it feels like it's been a blink. I think we were here the day after the Super Bowl in February, but all of that has been background. So I think that's important because we're not going to do anything hastily. We want to make sure we've done our homework before anything happens at Heritage Park. Here we stand in June with our initial introduction again to the team. Nothing has happened yet, so our introduction team to stakeholders in June. In July and August, because it's kind of the summer break, we don't think that's a good time for big public meetings. People are out and doing other things. That doesn't mean we've stopped doing work. We're hearing what we heard 2 weeks ago. We're taking what we've heard tonight. We're having maybe meetings with city planning, city transportation. We're taking all of that input, maybe doing some research and analysis. What are the bedroom needs at Heritage Park for the residents today, the existing piece, all of that homework, again, I'll refer to in June and July. By that time, in September, you've forgotten who I am, right? It's been 3 months. So we're going to reintroduce, right? So just reminder, here's the process. Maybe here's some of what we learned in our research and analysis, and start to have even more in-depth conversations about what your concerns are, what your hopes are for a revitalized Heritage Park in September. Then in October, the show gets real. This is the way we like to work as architects and planners, is in a room with you, not in our office somewhere else. My office is in Washington, D.C. That's far away for me to be able to look out a window to walk around Heritage Park. So we want to do our workshop, multi-day workshop, 4-day workshop on site develop those plans, the plans for Heritage Park with you present, able to drop in while we're working during the day, having meetings like this in the evening. Here's what we did today. What do you think? That's garbage. We're gonna throw it away and start again tomorrow. And through that 4 days, come through that process together. So all of that is a lot of homework between now and October, and then really not putting pen to pencil or pen to paper rather on a plan until that homework is done, until the conversations have happened, and then working through that master plan together in a 4-day workshop in October. That doesn't get it all done either, right? There will be things that we see in that coming out of that workshop will take some time, a week or so, to think about it, to come back. Hey, this didn't occur to me when we were together last week, but what about this? So there's another level of refinement of adjusting the master plan based on the input after that workshop. That takes about a month. So now we're into November of 2023, and we're getting into city process for the land, what's called the land use entitlement, basically the zoning, the rules that would allow the development to happen the way we've envisioned it together, moving into that city process. At the same time, the housing authority is moving through the processes it needs to do with HUD, and as the development team is working through the financing, right? None of these beautiful visions that we come up with together to improve housing options, improve life, quality of life options for Heritage Park residents. None of that happens without the dollars. So at this point in the December timeframe, the financing aspects also start. So it feels like between now and December, let's call it a 6 or 7 month kind of planning timeline, but that's what it takes. Again, we don't want to do things rashly. We don't want to do things too quickly. So getting it to that point is why this time frame rolls out. Go to the next one. So we've introduced the team. We've introduced the process a little bit. One thing that I failed to mention in this kind of July, August work stage is tours. So having conversations with other folks in Raleigh, other folks in the 40 properties, seeing other housing options, what that looks like, that could also inform. Those tours happen in July and August, and we'll be working with you, we'll be working with the housing authority to decide what properties and places are the best places to look at and who the best people to talk to. And then again, in the fall, coming back with that. So that's some of the process as it rolls out in that scheduled timeline. And with that, we want to really introduce the conversation. I'm going to turn it over to Bill Wall to start to engage us. The idea is that we have a large group conversation for, call it maybe a half an hour or so. Bridget and Inker are going to talk through some of the ways we want to approach that. And then if it feels right, and I'm hoping it does, that we break up into kind of informal smaller groups. So I was walking around having conversations with lots of people before we started. If we could do that as well, but some people don't feel comfortable talking in the in a big group. But by the boards, grab any of us. I could actually ask everybody on the development and planning team to raise their hands so that we know sort of who to look for when we have that conversation. We'll do the big group for about an hour, do the smaller groups for about 15 minutes, then come back and talk about some of the conclusions. Sound like a plan?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, everyone. As Murphy and Kurt and Ashley have said previously, I'm going out for this community engagement meeting for the largest stakeholder group. As mentioned 2 weeks ago, tomorrow we had our first community engagement meeting during this development stage of this structure at the Heritage Park site. We had a good turnout of persons who were here. And so I know that our HA heard many concerns that were brought before the residents and have already started trying to address some of the issues we have. Their maintenance director on staff on site now, teaching some additional follow-up. So before we go into the community engagement conversation, I wanted to just very quickly acknowledge Daphne Moore, who is with Congresswoman Deborah Ross's office. And I wanted to do this because Congresswoman Ross was very instrumental, as was former Congressman David Price, in working with RHA and the other elected officials locally to move forward with this particular project. So Daphne is the housing coordinator for the Congresswoman, and wanted to just acknowledge that she is here in the room and is a resource for us. I had an opportunity to speak personally with Congresswoman Ross last week about this particular project. So I want to make sure that the individuals in the room know that this is a very important matter, and just wanted to elevate the fact that she does have representation here in the room. So as we move to the community conversations, I want to ask Dr. Ingrid Swinson to come up and just kind of talk about some community engagement agreements to give us a compass of how to go forward so that everybody's voice is heard and elevated.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I hope your day has been good. I hope you, and I hope your evening is even better, because what we are hoping to do is really find ways to engage with one another. So the first thing I want to do is talk about stakeholders, because this meeting is essentially for stakeholders. We met with community members. We are meeting now with stakeholders, and I want to give clarity around that, because stakeholder can mean different things to different people. So let's just start with some things first. A stakeholder group includes somebody who has expertise in an area. And so we've got that. We've got that with the development team. We've got that with BL Law and engagement. And we've got that with, Renshaw, Torty Gallus, all of those things. That's where we go to for our expertise, because our goal in this entire project is to figure out, how do we co-create a community? How do we work together to make sure that you are getting the kind of community that you want, and that we are able to accommodate in a way that's going to not only meet the community members, but also their needs outside of the community that we have to be aware of, and their parameters and guidelines that we also have to consider. So when we think about a stakeholder group, we need people that have expertise, that know how to do things. And then we also have to think about, in terms of stakeholder group, who can move a decision forward and who can prevent that decision from happening. So who can move the project forward and who can impact the project not move forward. Well, part of that is what we look at when we look at, you as citizens, Raleigh Housing Authority, Raleigh Raised, because they also serve as part of this stakeholder group. They're in a position to think about, how are we going to move this forward, or what are some of the things that we have to consider, and then not to say that it won't, but these again are some ways to kind of clarify who a stakeholder is. And then one of the most important, if not the most important, member of a stakeholder group is who's going to be affected, who's going to be directly affected and impacted. That's everybody here who is like, yep, that's me, that's why I'm here. And that's why we need you here, because your voices matter. Your voices indicate and drive the direction of this project. And so I just wanted to make sure we were clear on stakeholder groups, because again, part of the way that we build these kinds of agreements is that we understand, that we have clarity on things. So that's kind of the overview of a stakeholder group. So now let's talk about this compass. So from our last meeting, my observation, and I do a lot of people watch, my observation is that there was a lot of conversation that was very emotional. And we needed to be able to hear that. But we also needed to recognize that that place of emotion was not to be, was not to be hard on people, but it was just to make sure people understood, I'm passionate about this matters to me, and we recognize that. So with this compass, it's kind of like figuring out where people are so that we can understand where we need to go. So we know that there was people that were very passionate about the situation. And then we also know that there are people who are like, you know what, I don't need to hear any more, I just need to know what we're gonna do. That's kind of speaking to that social place is wanting to address the issue. How many people want to speak? What are we going to do? And then you have people that are here that are like, well, I'm not sure yet if I'm ready to be on board. So I need more information. And that's what we want to be able to provide as well. So when you think about that part of the process, you see that silhouette of a head, that's like an intellectual space. Some people are in an intellectual space where they need more information. Not to say that we can't ask questions, so if people ask questions, then looking for more information. Then you got that place right in the top, that moral, you know what? I'm gonna come at this from a place where I'm situated in a place where either I'm very passionate about this is right for us, or this is wrong for us. And there is a moral imperative, a moral obligation to make sure that things are done right, because we got history behind development. We don't acknowledge that we got history behind these redevelopment projects, but we also know that there's some good things that are happening. We want to sit in that space where good things are happening. So all of these points represent the way my observation, the way people were entering this space the last time we were here on June 15th, June 15th. So in the middle there, though, is where we hope everyone can be. Kind of center yourself, because there are going to be people who are very passionate about what they're hearing. There are people who want to do things right away. There are people who need more information. There are people in this conversation that are like, this is wrong, or this is absolutely right. So that place in the center, that's why the compass. So that's what we want everybody to kind of think and move towards that center space. That makes sense. Anybody have a question? I see some head, so I appreciate that. So the other thing about, because this is a very large group, and we want to make sure that we acknowledge this space. So the community agreements are ways for us to think about how we move to that center, how we get to that center space and compass. So the first thing is, you know what? Individually, we all know something. There are people who have history and expertise in development. There are people who have history and expertise because they live in Heritage Park. There are people who have history and expertise because they've been in Raleigh. So individually, we all know a little something, but together we bring this level of intellect, then we know a lot. We know a lot. So we want to be able to recognize that. And then because we can sometimes get the WOTS, you don't know what that is? WOTS, that's a word on the street. So some word on the street can be louder than what you actually hear. And so making sure that when that word on the street is bubbling in your head, just take a minute and say, you know what, I'm not gonna judge it. I'm not gonna judge it. I'm gonna ask a question and say, is this what's happening? Because I'm wondering, I've heard this, I just want to know. So turning that one, and then everybody has a truth. We're gonna acknowledge that truth. Everybody should feel free to speak their truth. Their truth is different than my truth. My experiences growing up in North Carolina are very different. My experience in growing up in a small town in North Carolina, Raleigh was a capital, so Raleigh was like going to a big city for us. But that's my experience. It's very different from Rich's experience. She grew up in Charlotte, which again was a big city. So we have to acknowledge that we are able to speak our truth and let other people speak theirs. And then sometimes you feel like, you know what, I can't take it. I can't take it. I don't want to hear anymore. We want you to push through that and be present, because there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had. Also, if you know that you're the kind of person who tends to kind of sit in that space where you're wondering a lot and you're not saying anything, but you got that thought bubble up here on your head, like, I want this, or I want to ask this, or I want to say this, then lean in. We want to hear from you. But if you also recognize, you know what, I gotta let other people speak, then lean out, because they need to be able to feel free to do that. We're gonna try to make sure that we're honoring time agreements. This is supposed to end at 8 o'clock, I believe, so we wanna make sure that that happens. And when you're listening, try to listen from a perspective, I need to try to understand this. So listening to understand, and then finally, nobody in here is perfect. We're all human, but nobody is perfect. So sometimes when people get up to speak, feel very confident, talking, go through it like that. But wherever they are, know that we're all human, we're not perfect. Some people may speak with an accent, some people may not. Some people may speak very fluently because they're comfortable in front of a group. Some people may not be. So we're not judging, we're turn that judgment to wonder, and we're not going to be or I'm inviting, I'm inviting to really think about the fact that people are in different spaces, that people are human, and that nobody, all the expertise that we talked about up there, yeah, we know a lot, nobody's perfect. All right. So is anybody like, I agree with you. This is the way for us to have this conversation. Large and small. Yes. Anybody feeling like, I'm not sure, or I can't do this. Thank you. Again, inviting you to this space to be able to do that is important. Acknowledging that we all have history, that our voices matter, and that we want to push those voices numbers. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ingram. I appreciate that. This time I'm going to turn it over to Peter and Murphy, who will take us through the process and start the conversation.
So this is open. We want to hear from you, and we'll take some notes if you don't mind, just so that we can make sure we remember. So this is what is on your mind about Heritage Park. What we'd like to get to is a Heritage Park of the future. So we want to hear about your concerns, but also your hopes of what could be better. I'll use an example from a couple of weeks ago. Ashley and Peter sort of recapped a little bit. We heard a lot about relocation concerns, big concern should be. We heard a lot about maintenance concerns with existing units today. So we need to address all of that. But we also need to start to think about what could be better and what you want to see better. So one of the things we heard was, I'm just going to use an example, right? My sink leaks. This needs to be taken care of. And that is absolutely real. And as Ashley said, there's been a ton of maintenance efforts or one-on-one in the last couple of weeks. There are people here in the back. But I'd like to get at some point, maybe that's not tonight, but as part of the process beyond my sink leaks to I want a washer and dryer in my unit. What are your hopes? What do you want to see later? So this is part of what Ingrid described in term. What is it term? Something to wonder term. Judgment to wonder, right? So my sink leaks, I'm going to be upset about that till that gets fixed too. But we honestly do want to hear about what's the next thing. That could be inside your home in that example of washers and dryers and sinks. It should also be about the neighborhood and the programming too. It could be, I'm concerned about jobs. What is this redevelopment? What kind of job generation could that do? Let's talk about that. The kids, I feel like this is not a safe place for the kids. That's a today concern. We want to hear that. But let's also hear, we need something for all the kids to be able to do. The great arts together, it's happening here for the little kids. The teenagers need a place to go too, right? They're going to get in trouble. So let's talk about the aspirations to that. I've been talking a lot, we've been talking a lot. Those are sort of examples of what we'd like to hear. What are you concerned about? What would you like to see in something new? Yes, ma'am. And part of this is to get people to like.
Takeda Jarman, 504 Garcia Drive. The initial plan that you guys have brought us initially was supposed to bring West Street through my living room, my kitchen, and my living. What is the final plan that you already have? Then again, dishwashers and dryers. Everybody would like one, I'm sure. We would like to see a playground for the kids, I'm sure. The community service coordinator, we would like to see her more often. And if because there's a lot of situations in my life that require additional resources that I may not have to get right away. So I know that the community resource coordinator helped me put me in the right direction to get where I need to go to finalize that plan that I want for my life and my family, not just my family, but the community as a whole. Because somebody else is following in my footsteps, or maybe trying to take a path that is similar to mine, maybe, perhaps, whatnot. I want to see what the final plan is. Have you drawn up one already? Is there one already made? And is West Street still coming through my living room and my kitchen? Not to mention, is there someone else we can go to when the property manager is not on site? When she's not on site, is there someone else we can go to besides her supervisor? We don't want to always get this lady in trouble with what is going on, but we want to find out how we can get this emergency maintenance situations handled in a timely fashion. Gas leaks, water leaks, those are emergencies. Okay, so then you got a roof cave in. Those are emergencies because we got to have somewhere for our children to have their heads in. We don't always have hotel fare right away. Okay, so those things are important into our maintenance work right now. Yes, they are important. At the same time, guys, we're getting ready to move. This is what, 1970s when this was built? We need these remade. No offense. We need them remade. You need a dishwasher, you need a washer and dryer. Because I can't always sit my stuff outside on the clothesline. I don't know who's coming through. We got that whole rehab program at Dix Park for the men who's going through their drug rehab. I don't know what they're coming through the neighborhood for. To watch my child, your child, their child, smell my panties and whatnot. No offense. But on some real talk, sir, I can't sit that kind of stuff outside. You understand what I'm saying? So we're gonna have to face this development. No offense, we're gonna have to, guys. Because our elders need a better place to stay. You know what I'm saying? These meetings right here, we're supposed to have more elders in here than this. Where the go-kart set for them when they come in to the meetings and whatnot. They don't have the go-karts to go get our elders to come to these meetings. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. So yeah, I have a feeling for HP. I do feel like I have outgrown HP in a lot of ways. But in a lot of ways, I don't want to leave because I still have children that go to school. And I have a lot of friends there that I cherish a lot. So to see them displaced in all different places, if they don't want to go, please don't send them. Okay? Please don't send them. If they are really in dire to stay in HP, stay in HP. But please consider the children and the parents who have to go and remove these children to different schools all over Raleigh. The school system is already jacked up, right? That's one area we can't even talk about because that's not even in this meeting. Okay, but as of right now, there's a lot of things that need to happen for HP. I don't really want to see high rises come up because the top floors got to worry about all that sewage coming down to the bottom. Everybody on the bottom floor has got to deal with coming up from the top.
You're saying a lot of great things, and I want to make sure I've got it in my head to reply, and then we get a chance to hear from lots of voices. To thank you. So 3 big things jump out at me that you did an amazing job that I should have probably mentioned earlier. Yes, thank you. If you are a Heritage Park resident and have a specific issue with your home that needs follow-up on, and you would not mind, then please give us your unit number so that we can follow up. So you did that at the beginning. Thank you very much for that. We also talked, we need about some of the maintenance issues that we we talk about here too. So we need a plan, we need principles, we need guidelines that talk about Heritage Park today, right? This great future vision, as we looked at the calendar, doesn't happen tomorrow. So we need to make sure we're paying attention to the conditions today and that gets covered with the housing authority. So let's never lose sight of that. So that is part of the process that we need a process for dealing with concerns. The third thing you said about, it was when I think you were talking about West Street coming through your living room. Nothing's coming through your living room while you're living there, for sure. But you did say the plans that you showed before, and I did not speak to that. We have not spoken to that before. There were plans developed, one before my time here in 2019. The decision was made that, those plans didn't consider enough of this kind of input. Let's wipe the slate clean and start a process that takes this input and develops those plans from that input. So once a plan's out there, it's going to be in somebody's mind and we're not going to forget about it. But my promise to you, standing here right now, is no plans. There is no plan sitting back there somewhere we have developed. There is no plan that here's what's going to happen. It can be frustrating, but that's why are we doing it this way? To get this input, and West Street shouldn't be going through somebody's living room, but maybe being connected and not isolated is a good thing. How can we plan for that together? I don't know, but this is the conversation we have now. And before, again, I'll say it again, before pen goes to paper, we know what you want to see, and then do that together. We'll draw it 20 times because it won't come out first, but we'll just be drawing it together. So my promise to follow up on that place is, what is the plan? There is no plan today. Even though there were plans developed before, with the authority, all of that was conscious. Let's put that away. Let's start new and do it the right way. Do it. Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening. Excuse me if I don't stand, but my name is Thomas Kelly. I'm the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition, and also a former New City Housing Authority employee for 31 years. My question or my perspective in terms of maybe facilitating a more focused understanding amongst all of us relative to this process is how is this being facilitated economically, financially? Now I know public housing has been facilitated through Section 9. Section 9 is defined as public housing. I don't know if that's the status here in Raleigh, whether it's Section 9, Section 8, or is it RAD? Is it a RAD Section 18 blend? How is this being facilitated? Because those specific issues define the rights that residents have. There's 964 under Section 9. I don't know if that's relative under Section 8 in this particular instance. Is this currently Section 8, or how is this facilitated? That's the ongoing process, and when you say partnership, the residents relinquish certain rights based on the partnership that was not essential under Section 9 of public housing. So there's a lot of questions nationally. This is not just going on here. It's nationally in terms of the transition at this point from the former funding structure to the present and future funding structure. And I think that it's essential that we understand that process so we can be more focused and more succinctly understand what's going on and how that impacts residents and now and in the future beyond the cosmetic.
Right. If it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tom McKay, for asking that question. It's a really good question. The idea is that we're going to do a Section 18 demo dispo, which gets you tenant protection vouchers, which are Section 8 project-based vouchers, not section 9.
Those vouchers are linked to the unit, not the person.
Project-based, correct. So they will be project-based in the new development. And you raise a really good point about the rights under section 9 and section 8. We've done many of these redevelopments around the country. My position is that we take the best from each of these rules and we maximize the amount of rights the residents have for all of them. So for instance, we'll have grievance procedures for evictions that match the current section 9 grievance procedures. Yeah. So we will make sure that everybody has a right to return like they do under rehab. So we look at each of the different repositioning and we take the most restrictive view on each of them and use them, whether or not that tool is being used, because we don't want anyone to feel that they're being displaced improperly. We don't want anyone to feel that they're being treated unfairly. We want to make sure that everybody gets all the rights that they would get under any of the programs. So we maximize those rights for the existing residents.
And those rights are established in policy and HUD policy.
Correct. They're established in HUD policy, but we go beyond it. And I'll give you another example of how we go beyond it. You seem to know a lot about federal rules. So let me just tell you about section 3. Section 3 used to be, before the final rule, a pretty robust program where we were required to hire public housing residents, construction and other jobs, and to contract with section 3 firms for construction, maintenance, and other things. The final rule got rid of most of that, and all it says now is that you have to keep track of the hours of who are targeted section 3, and non-section 3 employees. I don't like that. I want to keep the old rules and make sure that we're hiring section 3 labor to work in construction and in other areas, and to give opportunities like tonight, where there's catering to bring in section 3 companies that do that. So we don't look at this as a purely we're following the book that HUD has. We look at this as a guidance for how to maximize the current residents' rights. And if you see us not doing that, please point it out and we will make adjustments. We're not perfect. We don't do everything right all the time, but understand what the goal is. The goal is to treat people fairly. And we are going to do everything we possibly can to make sure that everybody feels like they got a fair shake.
They give a couple of voices, but there are a few people that we didn't recognize, so I want to make sure that we recognize Councilperson Ronnie Forte is here, Mayor Pro Tem Corey Branch, and Corp Manager David Ellis. So there are a lot. There are a lot of people here listening to your point that I want to make. We can let someone that has short video. Sorry, go here.
Hey everyone, my name is Lana Taylor. I'm a lawyer, housing lawyer, housing advocate, Wake County Housing Justice. To follow up on your point about how we're starting over, there's not a plan. So are some of the options still on the table that were on the table the first time, like Section 8 vouchers, moved? You mentioned that there was not, that there will be a right to return. I think we're starting over, we're gonna be clear, and we're gonna make sure that people understand what that right to return means. Is that an automatic right to return? Or does that mean that you'll get a preference and fill out an application and being screened for your criminal history or credit check? Those are some things that I feel if forward, you have to be clear about so that people can really understand what their choices are, so that they can make the right choices for their lives. So my first question, are the same options still on the table, or are we gonna start over and rebuild those options? Can I say that for her?
Sure.
Section 8. Is there gonna be any way, Mayor,
Where I see the other one at? Miss Stormy, is there gonna be any way that we can slide that voucher, that section 8 voucher she stated, for a set of keys without going through turmoil? Because there's some that don't wanna be here, there's some that do wanna be here. But is it gonna be easy to make that transition without having to say, oh, you got a property, I wanna rent that? Is it gonna be easy for me to get that set of keys from you because I've got that voucher from her saying that I got the right to move? How easy is that process gonna be for me? Right.
So just like,
That's why I asked.
so just like there is no physical plan hiding in a drawer somewhere that we're gonna pull out, there is no plan for all of these other pieces that need to come together. So just like we're looking for input on the physical plan, we want to have a conversation about what we want to see. So are some of those options going to be there? I will promise you, in working with Renshaw and other places and working on lots of these projects all over the country, that we're not going to throw any bad idea away. If there is a good tool in the toolbox, we're going to use every one of those tools to make a new heritage park. So if there was a good tool in the last plan, yes, of course, we're going to use that. Are we going to streamline the process? Is that your goal? I hear it is a goal, and I don't know why anybody would want to complicate a process. So what are the things that we can do together to help make that happen? That's the commitment. Excuse me? This conversation, right? And this conversation that happens at every meeting, every day, every time we get together. And it's going to be a consensus, right? You had your hand up earlier.
I want to speak about the transportation that was sent. The notes were short. So there were people that had walkers and wheelchairs, they weren't able, because they were. So to make sure next time you send me the notice or early enough and have a phone call and be able to but then you also talk about food wash. That every time you had set price, different size, different amount, 250, 300, 400, things like that. To food. And you say, oh, how much is going to cost? Now, we all know it takes more than $200, $300, $400 people want that to deposit money to regular. So if someone wants to pay actually plus rent, that's a cost move down there. Then the next thing, when will you all, because I know you're gonna tell me, oh, we don't have that information now, because that's what the residents have been hearing, but that's next start. But when are you gonna send the residents, whether it be through mail, email, fax, I don't care what you do, when are you gonna send the residents the compliance in order to stay in the new place?
So several things there, again, trying to make sure I'm trying to, but that's what you'll remind me of again. Transportation, we heard this too, seniors should be here. Apparently the way we did it tonight wasn't the right way. So part of this introduction is what do we need? Transportation need to be better, more accessible than it was this time. We need different, better notice, earlier notice. Yes, yes, yes. So let's take care of it. Our promise is that we'll do. Okay. Also, part of this introduction is understanding what the best way to communicate with each other when we're not in a room together. So email probably works for some people, text probably works for some people, door-to-door works for some people, phone call works. We need to understand what works for everybody and design a process around it. The first introductory meeting. So how we contact people would be what we want to understand. What was the next point? Well, you see, I thought, okay, compliance was the next issue, but I thought you did say you, whether you fax, whether you email, all of that, to let people know what's going on, okay? With any kind of communication, I would say. So compliance, I think the housing authority can probably address this, but what I heard you usually say at the beginning is if you are least compliant today, in other words, if you have the right to live at Heritage Park today and you're living there today, that's the same. Right, so the right to return is based on the rules for living at Heritage Park today. If there are additional rules, then that's going to be part of this conversation too. None of it's going to be handed to you or slid under a door somewhere. It all needs to be part of the conversation. Some of it has to do with the law, some of it has to do with rules, but those are different rules. We're not trying to slide in to change. You've heard that from Ashley.
About the law. What does that mean? You said like this would be able to set rules, like you said.
Well, HUD operates under federal laws that say what those rules are. That's the way the housing authority operates today. That's the way the housing authority in partnership with the developer same. Come over here.
Volunteer for it. And how for you and look at it as interaction in Heritage Park. And past this year, a lot of the names, the Rich Shore and so forth, I've never seen come to the Heritage Park. But when we get to knowledge and everybody wants to jump on. We acknowledge that is called problem. I don't care how much you do, because what that means is you gain weight off of the back for people. And now that your dollars in for you, that's what I see. And so how intentional were you out that from their they have a better relationship and have trust building in their community. And anybody that knows anything about organizing community out, understands that trust and relationship building is the best way to do out because for trust is the way to talk and then listen.
The council includes.
Thank you.
And I feel like the assumption is that we can back with something we know.
Can I just let through?
And I think Raleigh is.
I don't expect everyone to know me. My name is Terrell Mitchell.
Well, we don't know you. Well, we don't know you.
I have no idea. I don't expect you to know me. But
Yes, you
I've been with you. I might not be the face of you, but I mean, one that you know, and you know what I stand for. But as far as the fences, some of the fences have been at Harrison Park. I have funded. Am I right or wrong?
Well, we don't know that though. Well, we don't know that, Fred.
I don't want to broadcast what I have,
But
what I
you
do.
got to sometimes.
Sometimes you have to.
You got a mayor, you got a sheriff, you got all these good people that want to be known. Why you don't
Yeah,
want to be known?
I don't put a title.
Okay, you don't
I
have to
don't
look for
look
the
for a title. I
title.
mean, I've been in Heritage Park for years.
Okay.
I mean,
I got for years. Where you live?
I've been.
We have to shot
But I've been fenced off at Heritage Park through Lost Sheep Ministries. I've had toy drive.
when they were doing all that.
I'm invested in that.
And they don't even feel part of it.
I've been in this community since I started cutting the grass at Heritage Park when I was in eighth grade. I'm 47 years old now. So every Friday night, we at the bottom, what's the unit on the corner right there by the community center. We play spades right in that unit right there at Jennifer's house.
I want to learn how to play spades.
I want to be a spade. We in it. But I mean, I'm not talking over here, but the point that you're trying to make, Wanda, is who's been in this community. I'm not sitting here trying to show everything I've done in this community, but I've done a whole lot. And I don't want it to be swept under the table. You look at a lot of things as far as the carnival programs and carnival programs. Them programs are whole program that we found. Do you know how many kids out of that program have been in college for 100? So when you guys, I'm gonna say, ask you about the community. And who is in the community? I'm in this community, and I hope you guys trust I have the best interest of this community. That's the purpose for me fighting for this community. I'm not up here to just make money. I'm in here to make sure that you guys and everybody's inclusive. But we're talking about unifying and building a legacy project for everybody. It's not just about me. It's not about these guys here. It's about everybody here. So everybody has to fight.
I understand it, but it is still have to go out and are capitalizing on that program. And I want to hear what the other partners have to say about what their interactions have been and how they have interacted with their part.
And what it's gonna be in the future.
And you're right, you work with all the ministry with that. I work with time. Take this time to take off. But I'm talking about another. I'm talking about like other part. The part. All.
I'm gonna ask first, then come back a little bit to the guidelines you said at the beginning, that we're gonna respect and listen to everyone's voice. You've already spoken, let's make sure we're hearing from other voices and that we're not talking over each other. I'm not sure how to answer your question, Wanda, but I'm gonna give it a shot. The reason this is an introduction is because it's the very beginning. So have I been out in Heritage Park my whole life? No. I was out there in February, I was out there 2 weeks ago. This is an introduction. This is the beginning. We're just all asking for a chance to help do this. I am not making a single dollar more standing here tonight at 7:30 in Raleigh than I would be working on a luxury apartment and during the day and being home with my wife and kids for dinner tonight. I am committed to this work. Our firms are committed to this work. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've not been doing it in Heritage Park. What we're trying to design here is take our experience and our knowledge from other places and again, making great neighborhoods, making great communities, making great homes for public housing residents in other places, combining that knowledge from other places with your very personal experiences here in Raleigh and Heritage Park, take the best of those things and make something great together. And this is just the very beginning. This is work that we're committed to, and it is not about making money on this. But it's not what we're.
Bottom line is, we don't have a choice. The building got to be done, can't stay in, I mean, it's dangerous. So the bottom line is, we either gonna trust these guys to do what they need to do. We don't like what they do, you know, we do, anybody like, they go somewhere else. Can't. But the bottom line is, we need them as much as they need us. Where you gonna get anything accomplished? We're gonna have to trust them. That's just the way it is. So we know what we want. We need to stick together. Give our input. At least they gave us an option. They didn't have to. They could have just said, you know what, we're gonna do this. We don't need to know them. They don't need to know us. But they came in here and tried to give us an opportunity to speak out. So I'm gonna speak out. I don't care what I never did.
First of all, I got to want my life to me. My thing is, I'm in a 5-bedroom, okay? There's no certainty that a 5-bedroom gonna come back, but the bottom line is, and I still got an option to go somewhere else in the house. It might not be where I want to be, but I'm not outdoors. And so right now, I think everybody's done it, think what they're gonna do. So they're gonna stay here, fight it out with this house, and do the best they can. I'm for the long haul. Everybody in this room, all kind of in the same boat. We all got each other back. We might not get along at times. You know what, we're a family. We might be a foolish family, but we're a family. And we got issues that we're part of that's very dangerous. A lot of y'all don't have that. So if you want to stay in something that's killing you, that's kind of stuff. And they can come in, of course, may not be able to come back, may come back, whatever the option is, but if they're dead, you ain't coming back nowhere. That's right. So we can give these people a chance and no disrespect. But this is her spot here, and they are the ones, voice that need to be heard about what's going on with people, not the outside. Because you know what? At the end of the day, they go home to their units. They don't have to worry about what's happening in the church's hall. If we have fire, if we have a flood, if we have gas leak, mold, a best shootout, whatever. You're the one that's in this stuff. We got people that live on the property. Can't get rid of them. They can leave when they want. In the woods. Yeah. We need some gated in. This is the issue that brought y'all. So we know y'all don't have to got. You know, I do. I don't know if nobody else do, but everybody else, you got to do what you got to do. So, I mean, y'all want to go with them, or you don't want to go. Don't want to go, take your bag and get out. That's the only thing you do. You gonna go with them? Oh, okay. That's what we got. That's all I got.
Thank you for your trust, and I really appreciate that. I want to see, you have no reason to trust us outside of the company.
No, I'm outside of him. But I've been out. I've been out. You were out.
I want to say is that over time, I hope to earn your trust. Because I'm gonna be coming back here week after week, getting to hear all these, and making sure that the plan does you right.
That's right.
And that's what we're committed to. So you don't need to trust me now, we have it for ourselves, and I understand that.
That's all I got.
Yeah, so we'll be working with you, and I very much hope that time I earn your trust.
That's all we have.
How many of these people you gonna get to know before this big enough to start?
Oh my God, some of the other developments I work on, we're the master developer at the Robert Taylor Homes in Chicago. It's the largest public housing project in the United States. It had 1,121 units. It had 18 identical 16-story buildings. I have been working on that project for 22 years now. You're not gonna get rid of me. So you don't have to like me, you don't have to trust, but just, we're gonna work together for a very long time until we get this right. And we've got great public officials who are sitting in the room tonight because they care about the residents of Heritage Park. We've got people from the county, we've got people from the city, we've got people from the city council, we've got people from the housing authority. We got people who are here listening to the folks here because we wanted to bring. And I just hope and pray that we get a chance to do that, and that I earn your trust.
I'm gonna go back over here, and as I do it, I'll brag on us a little bit too. So we're a 70-year-old firm. 1 million people live in 40 Dallas apartment homes all over the country and the world. In the last 15 years, we've done 50,000 affordable housing projects through the country. So there's a track record again of learning it. Troy and I have been working in the same community in Norfolk, Virginia, the same public housing community since 1998. We're actually working on the bridge for now. So we don't go away either. We do have a track record of what works and what doesn't work. I appreciate what Peter said. We have a lot of trust to
Thanks. My name's Paul. I'm with the Wake County Housing Justice Coalition with Thomas and Yolanda and one Hunter over there. And I just want to bring a couple of questions. One of them was Takita brought up a question about, and also many others brought up a question about maintenance and childcare and child safety. And it got me wondering, what is it that the Raleigh Housing Authority can do now to address the issue currently? Why do you have to wait till after redevelopment to address these issues? And the second question I have is, can the Raleigh Housing Authority provide the bylaw, make it available for us to read, what you guys use to follow the bylaw, and also update the website accordingly? Because I don't think the website has been really been having much update since the last time I checked a few months ago. Just want to bring those two things out. And third question, and this is more a philosophical question for folks going home, mostly for the stakeholders here. You all just commented that you're here because you care about the people. Do you care about the people who live in Heritage Park, or do you care about the money and the investment you make out of it through redevelopment? Those are the things I want to bring up. Are we gonna?
We care about the people. That's how I answer that question. Not sure if you've heard some of the conversation earlier, maintenance. You've heard what I said, that we need a set of principles and guidelines for dealing with conditions at Heritage Park today. So not waiting for redevelopment, but addressing the needs today. And this is something we heard very clearly 2 weeks ago, and there has been a whole rash of one-on-one meetings at Heritage Park to address these maintenance issues. As Ashley said at the beginning, the maintenance team is here in the back. Heritage Park residents have specific concerns. They should be talking to those individuals. So nothing is waiting for the redevelopment. And I hate it when I can't answer a question or something's a concern and it's not my department, but I don't know about the RHA bylaws. And so we can promise to follow up on that. But I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm not going to tell you something that
I think we do.
Good evening, my name is Jackie Williams, and I'm an outsider down at Heritage Park, but I used to live in Heritage Park, and to me, I'm hearing fear. It's like if you are going off to college or it's your first time leaving home, that happens, and then you just gotta stay prayed up. I used to live in Heritage Park with my mom, she had dementia. So Raleigh Housing Authority does scare because they moved me for safety reasons. So in fear, just pray, and it's all gonna work out. I mean, we serve, don't believe that's okay. We serve a good God. Just keep praying, and you gotta look at it with eyes open and give it the benefit of the doubt, because I lived in several properties and I wasn't too thrilled about what I was going to, but I was told, go there with an open mind. And I love it. I mean, it's like New York, I use the elevator, you say hi to people as you go in and you mind your business, but still move around. But anyway, I understand the family because Heritage Park is like the hope, and those are the communities. I don't know, Raleigh Housing Authority community. So, and I've always wanted to live one of those, but I've never stayed alone. I'm part of the community, but I understand your concern. To me, sounds mostly like fear. They pray that it's gonna all work out. Your kids are gonna be fine because they have strong parents. And you just have to see that Raleigh Housing Authority. So there's some issues they do have their main concern. at heart, because if it needs to be fixed, it has to be fixed, you know? So thank you.
Okay, my question is, I just got here a little while ago, but, I heard a few people saying something about Section 8. My problem with Section 8 is a lot of us have been approved with the Section 8 after the housing, and we weren't able, it's like 1,000 of us weren't able to find no, placement for the Section 8, and it's like a dead deal. So my question is like, you know, if we were if we were able to get a voucher for the Section 8, like, is it going to be like housing? Because like I said, I prefer housing because they place you, you know, they place you somewhere and you get the amount of bedrooms and space that you need for you and your family. Like, you know, housing approved me for 3 bedrooms, but Section 8 approved me for 2 bedrooms. So, you know, I have 2 kids and a teenage daughter and a 10-year-old son. So, and I know a lot of moms here as well have, you know, different age kids and things like that. You know, and that's one of our biggest main problem is that, you know, the Section 8, oh, we get approved, we get happy, but then we get real discouraged because it's like, oh, we have 2,000 people on the waiting list and we're sitting there waiting for years, and by the time they get to call us for an availability in an apartment, it's like the voucher is already, you know, they give you what, 90 days, it expires. You know, so that's my question. And then my other question is, like, for the placement, because I got here a little while ago, I was at the last week. The placement, for the placement is that, like, you guys can let us know ahead of time, or like you guys also will pick the place, or is it gonna be like, oh, we have to go through this process all over again through the housing authority or the Section 8? I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say. That, you know, like, I don't know if it's like, okay, we found this spot for you and your kids, you guys can get ready to move, or would you like to take a look at it? Like that, are we gonna be able to communicate about things like, I don't know if we'll be able to communicate things like that, but I'm just trying to make sure that me and my kids have a safe place secure, you know, and everybody else too here that lives in here, because a lot of us been through a lot of things, and some of us have experienced homelessness and whatnot, and I just feel like young lady said over here, you know, that's something we do not want to experience, you know. I just don't want to feel like we're being shut out, and I really do appreciate these meetings because it really shows me I don't have the same mindset I had 2 weeks ago, where I came and I'm like, oh no, this is a lie. Now I'm seeing that, you know, everybody else is here, and now my mindset is like, oh, okay, well, they do really care. Oh, you know, okay, great. You know, that's my question.
Yeah, no, it's a question. Because I know counties different, but not everybody else knows that Section 8 actually has 2 different ways it can be used. One is called a tenant-based voucher, and the other is called a project-based voucher. And the tenant-based voucher in real estate markets where there's a lot of competition for housing, or it's not working very well right now. Why? Because landlords have the option to deny somebody with a voucher to take them in, and when there are a lot of people competing, they may want to take, I don't know, some young kid who's working at Google or Apple over you, and it's not fair. It is just not fair, and they need to have anti-discrimination laws on the basis of the payment standard, and there are many cities in the country where you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of somebody having a voucher, and that's a big problem. But there's a second part of Section 8. It's called project-based Section 8, where the unit, not the person, is subsidized, and that's what we're talking about here. So in the new development, it will be project-based, and in addition to that, I know that the RHA is looking to go around Raleigh, deal with landlords and project-based additional vouchers so that you don't have a problem trying to find a place. There are more places that are already locked down for people who've been approved for Section 8. So all I want to say is that you don't have to worry about this whole not being able to place it business because this is going Section 8. And, you know, it's gonna be a process moving into your new apartment, there's no question. And most people are gonna have to move twice. They're gonna have to move temporarily someplace and then back into a new place. And that's gonna be a stressful, difficult, tearful process for a lot of people. Moving is difficult. All I can say is that the housing authority is gonna hire full-time staff that are gonna help folks manage that process. It's never gonna be perfect, it's never gonna be easy, but we understand that going into it, and it's a real priority to streamline it as much as it possibly can.
Peter, I
Yeah.
got a question for you.
Yeah.
You,
That's the question.
I can't see your name,
It's
Murphy,
Murphy.
Pro Tem, Rose. Who else I see back down now? Miss Regina. How many of y'all that already know, some of us in Stormy too? How many of y'all that already know this situation is happening has already got properties for our Section 8 voucher, where we can go ahead and get into it? These are the few people that want to get in there right now, that want to move right now. You got property, you know we here, you know we getting ready to go through this change. So how many of these people can you move right now that want to be moved into a home, into an apartment? You know us, you see us, you know what we about to go through. So we shouldn't have to look at this difficulty of sliding this voucher into your hand so we can get keyed. I want to put cobwebs in them corners where you not staying because you over there in Congo somewhere.
Okay. I know that the housing authority is listening to everything you're saying, and there's the strategic plan is going to be designed in order to address these issues which are real. So we're going to make this happen as best.
He's part of maintenance, how he gonna-
Yes,
that's the CEO. Thank you for my correction. I see it through. I don't get that correction. But you know what I'm saying? It's like we already going through a difficulty thing right now. Even when Miss Regina calls us tomorrow and says, oh yeah, you got your Section 8 voucher. Well, next week we start working because today is what, Wednesday? Okay, everybody's taking the weekend off because it's about to be 4th of July. They about to head to south of the border and go get their fireworks too. Or they about to head to Dix Park and go have them a drink or two over there. Okay, and then when Wednesday, Thursday coming next week, we got to get back on the ground and trying to find us somewhere to stay. You see me, you know where I am, and you know where I'm trying to go. So it shouldn't be that difficult for me to find something in 2 weeks of that time span that Ms. Regina said. You got 30 days. I should have 2 weeks to look. And the next following 2 weeks, I should be filling out paperwork. That next 2 weeks, I should be trying to plan to move. You understand what I'm saying? It's a process that you got me on. It's a process you guys are trying to get on. We've got so much time to get this done in because you're ready to bring the bulldozers in. That's the thing I want everybody to take a step back and think about. This stuff is not happening overnight. No, it's not. It's not gonna happen overnight. Even though things right now seem like we're moving fast, I can't get a grip on it. I understand that. Everybody understands that. But if we keep talking about what's not happening, we're not gonna get what you want to happen. You're not gonna get what you want to happen. Take advantage of the voices that are here. Say, you know what? Part of what I want to make sure happens is I can slide it out here and you can slide these keys. That's what needs to go up here. That's what you want. That up there. That's what they wait up here. That's what I'm saying. We already got that. So Troy, if you don't mind making sure this is rich. As part of the transition process, you slide out to me and you slide, I slide out to you and you slide these. Is it gonna happen? We don't know. You know what? Refer your voice.
We know that's what we want. We know that's what you expect. And our job is to try to make it happen in cooperation, in co-partnership. And I want to emphasize co-partnership with you. That's what we need. We're gonna do this thing together. It's not gonna happen in isolation. All of the things that you're hearing, I told you about the word on the street, some of it is not true. So that's why you gotta take a minute and say, all right, instead of me framing this as judgment, let me ask you a question. Let me ask the question. Because that's gonna get, all right, this is the answer, or you know what? We're not even at that stage yet. We're not even at that stage, because when I look back at the history of Heritage Park, that was built, what, 77, 79? Anybody been here since then?
I was born that year.
You were Heritage.
No, I was in the country, should have never thought about Heritage Park.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. A lot of what we are talking about now is how it's going to transition. And if we don't get to a place where we're like, these are the things I want you all to know, this is how I want things to happen. These are the process pieces that I want to happen. These are the structural pieces that I want to happen, but let's put it out. Let's put it out. I also want to go back, you asked the question, sir, about whether or not people are in this for the money or whether or not people are in this because they care. How many of you got jobs? Raise your hand. Everybody got a job, you work for free, right? Do you work for free? No. Exactly, neither do we. Neither do we. What? We don't work for free, neither should you. So ask us, well, you're making money. Absolutely, you make money too, go first. You make money too. I'm so kidding. So
This transitional process that's related to dependent on collaboration with private entities, is it handled by a conglomeration of stakeholders, and how is that? It's nice to talk about partnership, but what are the entities in that partnership and how those entities mesh together?
This is called a public-private partnership.
Right.
Well, not RAD, we're not doing RAD here, we're doing section 18.
Okay.
We have not applied for it yet. But the idea, it is true, it has not yet been applied for, but the plan is to do it as section 18 demo dispo. No, you're going straight section 18.
So if that's the case, then will there be transparency and that the residents will be able to do and the collaborators will be able to view that application?
I don't see why not. I don't see why not, and yes.
The red, the section 8, section 9, because I think a lot of people here are actually probably thinking like, why are you talking around? I know what they are.
Okay, so HUD now has a whole series of what they call repositioning tools that can be used for redevelopment. Some are better than others at different jobs. The section 18 program is what you go to HUD and you say, in this case, the property is functionally obsolete. We would like authority to demolish it and dispose of the land so that it can be redeveloped. The RAD program is a good program for renovation, generally. I do a lot of RAD and RADSAC blends. Always bringing in private partners, because the way you raise money today is through the low-income housing tax credit program, something you're going to hear a lot about over time. And the way the low-income housing tax credit program works is you apply to the State Housing Finance Agency, you get the ability to either do 4% or 9% credits, and we can talk about that a great deal. But the bottom line is the tax credits that are generated are only valuable corporations. So you have to form a partnership with corporations to take the tax benefits and in exchange for money. And that money is what is used to either build or renovate the projects. So all of these will have a component that's owned by the private sector, controlled by the RHA. The RHA, these are going to be turnkey projects. in which the RHA has complete control after the completion of construction. The keys get turned over to them and they control them. And after 15 years, the partnership ends, it dissolves, and then they get 100% control of the entire project. So the housing authority, So, and the land will always remain in the hands of the housing authority. It will never pass to any other hands. It'll be owned by the RHA and they will lease the land to the partnership that's gonna build the buildings for 15 years. So, going back to your question, Wanda, about the difference between all these, Section 8 and Section 9 are code words for, Section 9 is public housing, and Section 8 is a more, let's say, another way to subsidize units that are not public housing. It can be either tenant-based or project-based, but they're under a separate program. So there are redevelopment tools, which are RAD-SAC blend, Section 18, and then there are the subsidy sources, Section 8 and Section 9. This is probably too geeky for many of you, but if you have questions about it, I am very happy to sit down with you and explain all of the ins and outs of these different programs, and I bet you Tom could do the same.
In this essentially, we have to understand on the dynamic so that we can understand the rights and responsibilities.
Well, we are going to exceed your rights and go beyond the letter of the law, because that's who you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who want to do the right thing. And I don't care if HUD doesn't want to do the right thing. We want to do the right
Go to someone we haven't spoken. But I also want to remind us of one of the leaders who we can be respectful of people's time. We are at 8 o'clock and we want to hear some more voices, but I don't want to keep people on.
I just got a quick comment. On the quick one. Comment is, if you're right, some of these different things are and not, so that everybody can understand what section 2 and section 9 compared to what the stuff. The other thing is the question, and I think by everybody here, but it's not been direct. The residents of Heritage Park get priority housing as they're trying to move while we're trying to do this process, and priority housing when the new park. Are they priority for Raleigh Housing Authority in all houses?
Are the current residents of Heritage Park are they given a priority now before the redevelopment and then once it's redeveloped? I think the question, the import of the question is priority over other comers, like people who are on waiting lists and things like that.
Yeah, so Raleigh Heritage Park residents who move off the site temporarily will have the right to come back before anyone else has the opportunity to. So we will not. So, thank you. Heritage Park residents will have the right to return to Heritage Park, and no one will be housed at Heritage Park without the Heritage Park residents having the opportunity to come back.
I'm talking about moving them out, because you have to move them out there. Are they getting priority on moving? So if the unit available over here is a Heritage Park resident getting a priority on that unit as opposed to somebody just.
Oh, okay. Good question.
Is that under housing authority property, ma'am?
So we have, over 1,200 public housing units, and so annually, roughly around 120 of those units turn over. People move out and then we reoccupy them. So we will give Heritage Park residents when they have to relocate, we will give them the highest priority to move to units that are becoming vacant. Okay. in addition to just the housing that we own and operate, I have probably literally thought about relocation options every day for the last couple of months. And so I have reached out to other housing owners, property owners, nonprofits who have tax credit housing, for profits who have tax credit housing, new housing that is being built, current housing, and in addition to other housing that is not tax credit, to work on arrangements so our residents have preference to live there in the future on a relocation basis, on a permanent basis. And so we're working on project-based contracts with these providers so that they have room, so that they make room when these properties first become available and they lease up, that our residents will have, Heritage Park residents will have right to those units, project-based parts. So I'm literally working on multiple opportunities for residents so that whether it's a tenant-based voucher, project-based unit, in tax credit properties or other properties, we're working on that to make sure that when it is time for Heritage Park residents to relocate, there'll be places for them to go, and that will be options.
Very good.
So we're gonna ask if we can do 2 more questions, comments, and priority for people we haven't heard from this evening. So Aisha. Yes.
I have a lot to say, but as we know, we're on the top of it. So, where do I want to start? Honestly, I'm not backing down where I started, right? Where I started was, I was this little girl, developers, contractors, that had stayed in y'all properties since I was a little girl. If we all, you know, like, please, this is part of the redevelopment that has been redeveloped. Don't know what it's under section 18, 12 or 2, I don't know. But this is what the outcome is. Now, I do know people from experience from living beside people and family members that have stayed over here and was told the same thing years ago. Yeah. That they would be able to get back in this community after it was redeveloped, right? They were no longer there. They cannot get in. Okay, sorry, correction. 3 people came back, but just the overall big picture is the city, the developers, my ancestors are rolling over in their grave right now, y'all, are coming to Black communities, telling it like it is. Y'all know I'm not sugarcoating that, and taking property and turning it into what they want. It's not about what we want at the end of the day, y'all. That's clear, okay? So Heritage Park all the way down to Washington Terrace, don't know if y'all know the school, but most of us that stay around this area know, was built off of 4 years of slavery, okay? That's why I made the comment, my ancestors gotta be rolling around their grave, because the fight that they put up just to get a house. I am devil, and it's things like devil to get a house because of the same thing coming around the whole world, demolishing, redeveloping, and telling us it's for us. It is not for us. It's always going to be for them. So, being that I have been living in these communities for so long, right, and have been trying and struggling to get out. As a single parent, I have no father staying in the house with me and my children. We can't have that. That needs to be wiped out. Everything that has been developed and paperwork, it needs to be wiped out and started over. Just like y'all trying to demolish these communities, y'all need to demolish the paperwork that y'all have, start over new, and really put our emphasis into these buildings that y'all are building. We cannot go up here and stay in this community because we don't work certain hours. We're not able, I'm not saying we as easy and bad, but I'm not able to go over here and live in these new developments that they have rebuilt. And I understand some people are at the fed up point where it's like, okay, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but we also have a voice in these facilities. If we don't want it done, it ain't gonna be done. If you stick it to your family, that's what I'm doing. I have been standing up for my community now for 1 year, going on 2 almost, but I know it's been a year. And Raleigh Housing Authority has not been doing what they were supposed to do as far as resident council. Right? So I want a meeting that's gonna be tomorrow, but it is funds that is sitting out here that can be done in our community now. That's not needed. We got our parks taken away from the children. They have nothing but the street to play in, or the sand that's one that little bit that's in the grass, right? But I mean, everybody from Raleigh Housing Authority know my face. I am not afraid to speak my mind. That's the reason why a lot of people don't come, because they're afraid to say something. I have someone that has a question and I'm gonna let her ask the question. Yes, ma'am, because this is for us. You understand? Like these people come and say what they gotta say, granted, we gotta take it, right? We don't have to agree with everything that's wrong. And that's when I'm coming, and I'm not know my career. I know how some of y'all feel. But at the end of the day, we can't just keep giving our land to people for them to do what they want to do with it and tell us it's for us. Because now one of us got the money to get up and move, as we're stating, because if we did, we would have been gone. I'm just gonna say that. We're not trying to move because this is where we're comfortable at, and a lot of us has been here for years. I've been staying in these communities for years. Raleigh House Authority must not pay attention because my name been on a lot of leases. But at the same time, where is the bylaw speaking of self-sufficient programs, right? They're not in our community. We're supposed to have it right now. Before we were talking to developers, as I stated before, we supposed to be talking to Raleigh House Authority. Last time I called, nobody came but one person, maybe two. But it's over and beyond maintenance issues right now. This is our livelihood. It is not about $1 to us that we don't have. We all know this is a poor community. We are very weird. But at the end of the day, they don't have to tell us mistakes and build up what was told to us before. I think a lot of us are upset because we're going over the same thing over and over and over, and we're never getting it. So when they do start, my question to the developers is, when y'all do start demolishing the buildings, how long is that process going to take for us to get that in? Say for instance, y'all start today, right? Is it going to take us 2 years, 3 years, 5 years as y'all plan? How long? Is there going to be somebody that we can come to and we can talk to for the that we're still going to get that in this place? Even though y'all saying this now, like I said, it's been said before. I just feel like a lot of people work need to be updated, the same as the website. There's been meetings that's been discussed that's not there. I feel like young developers need to go into other communities, not just their part, but things that's already been redeveloped by Raleigh Housing Authority with other area and whoever else. Check them out, do some canvassing over there, find out where is the history of the people that is back in the same place. You understand what I'm saying? Because there is none from what I see. And I'm gonna go myself do the same thing. So I'm gonna know if y'all did see these people and ask them. I mean, have y'all been saying the same thing we're going through right now? I feel like it's very stressful. It's very stressful to keep hearing the same thing. Even though you're saying it's not a plan, there is a plan. The plan is to demolish the park and build it up mixed income. As I stated before, it is mixed income now, right? It's already mixed income because people paying different rent. Market rate to 30%. I know this ain't for these people, but I'm sorry, y'all, the city in here, I think some people still out here from the city. I'm trying to figure out why do y'all feel like y'all have to say, y'all going no more than 122 units at your part, 100, I'm sorry, 30% in mine. When I'm whole community right now, it's 30%, yet we trying to have no 5-15 stories with people that's like I said, look outside, you see, if you section us off like that, it's still discrimination. You're still gentrifying, still within the community. And I'm not happy, I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of it. So with that being said, I just feel like everything that they have written down on paper needs to go in the process of development or whatever. This is a lot. I don't know if y'all know, but it's a lot. And as I said before, Heritage Park is built on slavery. So, and it's for, it ain't going nowhere. I'm like I said, my ancestors, there was actually 3,100 people that stayed where Heritage Park is, in nothing but houses. This was our ancestors. You know what I mean? To the black people that joined behind these people that got power and money, it's shame on you for even coming up in here, making it seem like y'all is
But if you got comments, then you know they ain't for us because they're trying to build something that we cannot afford to live in. And if so, it's only gonna be what you got now. You know what I mean? Why can't we get houses or something such as that we can afford to live in with these vouchers that's made up? You know what I mean? We can't. I've been through that process. Got a Section 8 voucher, paid my deposit, couldn't move in. Why? Because of our housing authority. It took too long for them to pay these people their money. So the options are still to us. And as I asked earlier, we still have those three same options to just stay there, basically take a voucher or transfer to another apartment. If those three options are still in the process of decision making, y'all need one. Because it's not, it ain't gonna work. The vouchers are not being accepted. And if we do take a public house, a PH voucher, right? Brookshire, for instance, they changed it up, but what to the community, it's the same. So now they get funds or money for the same apartment that was just public housing. So all of this mess is really ridiculous. That it's been, there you go, sugar coated. I mean, listen, like I say, I live in this, even though y'all are Raleigh Housing Authority workers and developers. We live here, and y'all do not understand what it feels like to keep getting told the same information every couple of years or every year, and nothing's happening. I mean, I really want to know if Raleigh Housing will keep y'all, because it seems like it's a problem. This whole keeping developers and you know, I'm hiring different people. The turnover here is terrible. We got to fix it from the inside first. From the top, then you go to the bottom. Yes. Okay, all right. But yeah, like I really just wanted to say my little cents. Don't make any sense, but it makes a lot of me. And I just really wish y'all would think about it. You know, y'all can't just keep saying, oh, it's not about the money. I feel I'm just not trying to be funny, but that was a bad example earlier because I volunteer. I work. I do all of that. But that doesn't mean I'm doing it for money because I love it. You understand what I'm saying? So if I'm out here places for people and housing and not affordable, just make it clear, not affordable, I'm not sitting here and say, oh, I'm doing it because of money, or you know what I'm saying? I do this because I love people. I do walk out and go door to door because I care about them. You understand? I don't want people in this place. I don't want people to be told that we're going to be able to come back and we're not able to come back and this BS behind that because now we kicked out, they don't care, or we moving somewhere else and they don't care, you know what I'm saying? So, and I also want to ask, while the people are here, if Raleigh Housing Authority can have a meeting with their residents in Heritage Park. We need a meeting with you guys and girls ASAP on this whole everything that's going on, because we have not been a part of the decision making. Even though we're in these two meetings, we didn't know nothing about developers coming on. We don't know nothing about nothing else. We don't know the budget that was discussed between y'all two. They don't know what I got going on in the resident council in the community. We all need to be one and not just here to you know, redevelop or make it better for y'all. That's happening. It's not. I'm not afraid of the change that's gonna come. Everything changes. But at the same time, do it right. Make it affordable for us and not for the people that's outside of you. Because we still here. We still here. While y'all is still here. And I'm fighting you. I'm everyone like
changing the process. I want to make sure that we have that. I heard two things. Changing the process that we talked about. Three transfer
moving, basically staying in the same area, and you gotta move them if they're not on your section.
Okay.
So
it's vouchers, transfer, and
staying in here to talk.
staying here. And then also what I heard you say you want to be done differently is regular meetings with the residents of America. With our
Also, if y'all do redevelop, we need a street name, some kind of sign saying 4th Ward. History's never gonna be erased. We need a street sign or something saying 4th Ward, period. Period.
And went through a hiring process, and actually, it was 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago. One of the issues that kept us, and made sure that service is going to understand from the having part of the you know, and and we're making changes. Change happens. You're gonna see changes. And if you'll look up and this is kind of the beginning of what's working. It's also the change within the housing. So I've been to all these meetings. Process addresses your concerns, and you don't think it's gonna. Make sure that you all are, like I said, we're not gonna be able to satisfy everybody. We are gonna do it. Learning, trying to deliver services to the community that you all want. The city of Raleigh. That's what and you all have to be part of that. So we have 5 people in the board's committee to make sure that these people that are being paid way that satisfies. So I just want to say that we appreciate we hear you. We can to address your concerns, current concerns, and what you want to see. We want it to be a great place. We want it to be something that the whole city can be proud of. You all can be proud of for your friends and family business. That's what we're hoping to do, and we want your help. I get somebody we haven't heard from, but
I'm Coletta Sharp, Greenville, North Carolina, here with Naisha. I have a question because as we deal with a lot of developers coming into our community, we also deal with a lot of job loss. We also deal with a lot of mental health issues. We also have to deal with coming back into the communities, making sure that our children and our seniors have proper things in place for them, especially what safety measures are y'all gonna put back in place for our kids when they come back into the community, because that's number one, that they have engagements. And will y'all be integrating STEM programs when y'all bring those resources back to the community? Far as jobs go, our community in the jobs, because most of our jobs are outsourced outside of the state, the country, or whatever right now. So a lot of people in the community is losing work. So what extent are y'all going to make sure that the people in the community are able to get a job application and get a job to whereas it's not going to affect the cost of living that they're living in, because it's going to be a temporary job. It's not going to be a permanent situation. So that they are able to set up a way to save some money and transfer out of the public housing, since you're saying that you want it to be attached only to the property. The thing with it being attached only to the property, if the family was to move, what types of incentives or what types of programs will be able to help these families transition to a self-sufficient state of placement, since this is going to be considered a temporary shelter and not a permanent situation? So how will we be able to identify jobs for the people who are in this community to have those first? The safety measures for the kids coming into the community and things like that.
First, it starts with me. I got to be willing to take that job. I got to be willing to upgrade my family to that job. If I'm just gonna sit there and watch the stories all day called Heritage Park, Days of Our Lives, I ain't willing to take that job I'm steady watching Pearl from 227 in my window, watching what you do, what she do, what they do. I'm telling all the business of HP instead of going out there to find that self-sufficient job. Let me start with that first. It starts with me here. I got to want to grow up past that point of wanting to sit out there looking at window 227. Ooh, what Mr. Toya doing? Ooh, Mr. T just came in. Oh my God, that's an ant. Who's over there? We gotta outwork what's in here first, that darkness that we got first, and want to go up to want to be self-sufficient, to have the job he got, to have the house that they living in, and they ain't got to come on HP and see your child doing whatever with that child, and this child is doing that. Where bro got to come in and look at us like, what the world's wrong with these people? Get off that savage mentality and let's get on some good stuff.
So that goes back to my question, what types of extensive programs will come back to the community so that they're struggling?
Are they gonna wanna bring it to somebody that just wanna look at a 9 to 5 window and to stack on it?
So the question is, what activities do Raleigh Housing Authority they're gonna bring into the community? And I just wanted to pivot very quickly to President Asher so that he can respond to that. I want to be respectful of the time because it is 8:30. And we have year-round school, and there are quite a few kids here, so I don't know that some may have stuff. Just know, we will stay behind after the meeting. And you should call and please feel free to stay for travel long. I know there's one other person that's not spoken. I wanted to.
So thanks for your question about self-sufficiency and programs that can help. At this point, the Raleigh Housing Authority does not have a family self-sufficiency program. A family self-sufficiency program is a program that has been successful in a lot of places. And essentially, people who enroll in the self-sufficiency program get assistance with job training and opportunities to get job training, job readiness. But one of the major parts of that program is that once you become employed, if your income increases as a result of that employment, let's say you make $1,000, and so what's going to happen to your rent is it's going to go up $300, 30% of additional money. And in the self-sufficiency program, if you're part of that program, that $300 gets put in a savings account month after month. And as you earn more money, those deposits increase. And so where I just came from, which is another country, Pacific Northwest Seattle, is there were residents over the last year who got checks as high as $33,000 when they completed the programs. So they get help with work and an incentive to stay employed, get bonus, so that they have in their savings accounts. So when the program is going to get that. So thanks for that.
So today, would you please put that on your sufficiency program? So that's have that up there so that they can take that into consideration. There's one other question in the very back. Yeah, I know. Everybody back.
We have this
So the question is, if a resident receives a voucher, is the voucher only look? So do you have some, do the housing authorities have some type of reciprocity program? Locations outside of the organization?
Yes, the tenant-based voucher program is a program that allows you to live, to choose where to live, whether it is in Raleigh. If you get a voucher from the Raleigh Housing Authority, you can live in Raleigh housing authority. You can also take that anywhere in the United States, and you can, and then there'll be an arrangement between the housing authorities to make sure that the rent, the housing authorities portion of the rent gets paid. So a voucher is not just for Raleigh or Wake County, it's anywhere in North Carolina or anywhere in the nation.
Thank you.
Okay, so what if we don't want the voucher? Like, what if we don't want it? And y'all still get it?
So the question is, whether we don't want the voucher, what's the other part?
And y'all just give it to us even though we don't want it?
So what do you
Then we
want?
still stay in public housing, we do like, if we don't want the voucher.
Yeah, if you do not want the Section 8 voucher as the means for you to relocate temporarily or permanently, you don't have to take it out. So we have other public housing units, you'll get a priority to move into other public housing, or we will have agreements with other owners of housing, whether they're nonprofits or for-profits, whether it's tax credit housing or not. We will set up arrangements through project-based vouchers, so you can rent a unit in one of those properties and the rent will be subsidized. So you don't have to take a tenant-based voucher as your relocation.
Okay. Thank you. So at this time, I just wanted to reiterate will be taken around with camp and for residents.
Residents, and this is something Ms. Scott mentioned as well. I think she left, but that we, the development team, should go and look at other communities to hear other people's truths and the other places. And that she was going to do the same. Part of this July, August touring is we're hoping we can do that together. So that we can have that conversation together, to do the tours, to hear each other's truths, to see what has worked and what hasn't worked in other communities. We should do that.
Thank you, Murphy. And after that, we'll be in the fall, we will come back and have those 4 days of charrettes and workshops where after we have had synthesize all this information, come back to the developers, give them the information, sketch out and draw conceptually what this development will look like within the parameters and guidelines of HUD. So I wanted to just thank everyone for your time and to also let you know that this is the contact information. We will be putting in place a project website with additional information, and you can feel free to reach out to us at that point. The question is, what do you do in order to receive a Section 8 voucher?
Put their name on it, please. Sign your name on it, please, and wait for them to call.
Can somebody call? What is the process to get Section 8 voucher?
As Priscilla Bass, the director of the Section 8 program, is not here tonight, but I will answer your question. We have a waiting list for Section 8, so you can obtain an application to apply for the Section 8 for the voucher. When you get to the top of the waiting list, you'll be invited to come in and complete the application so that you can be issued the voucher. So if you're a resident of Heritage Park, and you are, and we start relocating folks, Heritage Park residents will have a preference to get the voucher. We'll go to the top of the list. If they want a voucher, they'll be able to get a voucher to find the housing during the redevelopment or permanent.
My next question is, to receive it, I do live in Heritage Park, but I don't know the location to put my name on the list or to receive
Okay,
it.
so if you will just see Mr. Ashley after the meeting, get this, yes, and let him get the staff person. Or you can bring and let them, give you the contact information to get on the wait list or get information section about you. Okay, so at this time, we're going to end the meeting. We're going to thank you all so very much for coming around, and just answer any questions you might have. Okay, thank you all so much. Thank you.